M dash. Once a humble punctuation mark, elegant, practical, and quietly confident, the M dash has recently found itself in the digital spotlight. Not because of a grammar revolution or a sudden literary renaissance, but because of the internet's latest fascination, using M dashes to spot AI-generated text. Across social media, and particularly LinkedIn, users have begun speculating that this long horizontal line is a giveaway, a red flag that your term paper, article, or social media post was ghostwritten by ChatGPT. The ChatGPT hyphen, they call it. That's debatable, but more on that later. In a landscape already jittery about automation, intellectual honesty, and the growing presence of large language models, people are looking for any clue to separate human from machine. And what better suspect than the oddly elegant dash that so many of us don't know how to type. For months and months now, people have been posting how they can spot how someone has written their posts using AI. What's most remarkable about this trend is just how many people have pointed it out. Wow! And that it continues to be posted about, as if it's new news. Somehow it continues to drive fantastic levels of engagement. I mean, I've posted sardonically about how this trend needs to end, and it was one of my most engaged posts of the year. Wow! Most of the comments took my post at face value. But before we delve into this unexpected surge of very online hysteria, we should first get to grips with the punctuation mark in question. The M dash is named for its width, approximately the length of the letter M. It's not a hyphen, and it's not an N dash. It's a powerful tool of punctuation, versatile, dramatic, and when used well, deeply satisfying. Its primary function is to create a pause, a sort of literary intake of breath that can set off parenthetical thoughts, insert interruptions, or signal a punchline. Writers love it because it mirrors how we speak, with tangents, emphasis, and rhythm. For example, I was going to finish this paragraph, but then I got distracted. Style guides disagree on spacing. Chicago Manual, no space. AP Style, spaces. But the general principle is clear. Use it to emphasize, not to replace every other form of punctuation. Here's the thing. AI isn't obsessed with the M dash, but it might seem that way. LLMs like ChatGPT are trained on huge corpora of human writing, and a lot of that writing, especially blogs, magazine journalism, and fiction, includes M dashes. So when AI generates text, it often mimics those styles. If an AI is trying to write in a casual yet articulate tone, it might lean into M dashes as a kind of stylistic crutch. Some argue it overuses them, sprinkling them in with the regularity of seasoning from a robot chef. Precise, but impersonal. Others point out that AI is merely reflecting human preferences, and if we love M dashes, and we do, why wouldn't it? In a sense, AI is doing what we taught it. The rise in M dash frequency may say less about machines being too clever and more about humans being consistently fond of a particular punctuation mark. The M dash wasn't born in a data center. It was forged in the fire of early printing. 16th century printers began using dash-like marks for clarity and rhythm. By the 18th century, the M dash had emerged as a stylistic flourish, embraced by figures like Samuel Johnson and, most famously, Emily Dickinson, who deployed them liberally in her poetry. Throughout the 19th century, the M dash flourished in print, but the 20th century saw a decline. Typewriters, limited to basic keys, didn't have an M dash. Writers had to make do with two hyphens, and many just avoided the fuss altogether. Grammar purists also weren't fans. The M dash was seen as lazy or undisciplined, a wild card compared to the order of semicolons and commas. But like all good literary devices, the M dash made a comeback. By the 1970s and 1980s, it re-entered mainstream use, especially in journalism and fiction. As writing styles became more conversational, the M dash found a second life. Stylish, expressive, and just rebellious enough. In 2025, you'll find M dashes everywhere, in novels, newsletters, Substack rants, and yes, AI-generated CVs. One analysis found that M-dashes showed up 14% more frequently in CVs after the public launch of ChatGPT. But that doesn't mean ChatGPT is dash happy across the board. In fact, when asked to write a scientific abstract, AI models often underuse complex punctuation, favouring shorter, clearer sentences over stylistic flair. What this tells us is that M- use reflects the genre and tone requested, not the presence of AI per se. Interestingly, when AI mimics scientific writing, it tends to use fewer dashes. It simplifies structure, but when it writes marketing copy or blogs, the M-dashes come back. In other words, the punctuation varies with the tone, not the author. In Spanish and French literature, the M- isn't just common, it's required. In novels, a new speaker's line often begins with a dash instead of quotation marks. So if your ChatGPT detector is going off in a Spanish short story, you're probably just reading standard punctuation. The fact that these stylistic norms vary so widely between languages, and sometimes even between publishing houses, should give us pause before treating any punctuation mark as an AI giveaway. So why is the humble M- being dragged into this digital witch hunt? Why are we so eager to believe that a single keystroke can expose the robot among us? Part of the answer is psychological. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We're wired to draw conclusions from small cues. It's the same instinct that makes us read subtext into emojis or assume someone's tone from a full stop. In a world where more and more of what we read could be written by a machine, the desire to decode the text becomes almost compulsive. There's a cultural layer to this. As AI tools become more sophisticated, we're seeing a kind of literary uncanny valley emerge. Writing that feels almost human, but not quite. Spotting an M- becomes a bit like spotting a glint of metal beneath synthetic skin. A symbolic way to say, aha, you're not real. And then there's the gamification of it all. On TikTok and Reddit, calling out AI tells has become something of a sport. Users will proudly circle dashes, point to alliteration, highlight slightly too formal phrasing, all in the pursuit of that sweet internet dopamine hit. Gotcha. It's not just about accuracy, it's about vibes. But here's the kicker. People most invested in spotting AI writing are often the ones most likely to sound like AI themselves. Self-appointed style police wielding rigid rules about punctuation, tone and word choice without irony might be closer in spirit to the bots than they'd like to admit. There's also a generational friction here. Many younger users didn't grow up being taught the nuances of the M-, or much formal grammar at all, so its presence can feel foreign and suspicious. Meanwhile, older writers see it as a tool of clarity and cadence. What looks like AI to one person might just be good punctuation. Ultimately, this fixation on the M- tells us less about AI than it does about us. Our anxieties, our lack of digital literacy, our hunger for easy answers in a complicated new landscape. And if a piece of punctuation becomes collateral in that identity crisis, well, it wouldn't be the first time we projected our fears onto grammar, from the moral panics around slang corrupting the youth, to the pearl-clutching over split infinitives. Language has always been a battleground for deeper cultural anxieties. The M- is just the latest casualty, a grammatical scapegoat caught in the crossfire of a much bigger debate about authenticity, intelligence, and control. Let's talk about the memes. In a perfect storm of generational misunderstanding and internet paranoia, the M- has been rebranded by some Gen Z internet corners as a kind of digital scarlet letter. If you see one in a post, the theory goes, you're looking at AI. TikTok clips, Reddit threads, and even podcasts have propagated the idea that M- are a dead giveaway of AI involvement. One viral clip dubbed it a ChatGPT hyphen, a phrase that's wrong on two accounts but catchy nonetheless. Brands have been accused of using ChatGPT just because they posted an M-. Students worry their essays will be flagged by teachers for the same reason. But what's behind this hysteria? It's possibly a combination of three factors. Firstly, M- are not really visible on the keyboard. Second, there's a false sense of linguistic purity. And third, as we said earlier, the human instinct is to look for patterns, even if they're meaningless. It's absurd, but it's also revealing. The M- has become a scapegoat for a broader unease. How do we tell if something is written by a person or a machine? Adding fuel to the fire is a misinterpretation of a legitimate idea: AI watermarking. As reported by the New York Times, some AI developers have explored embedding subtle signals into generated text, not visible watermarks, but statistical fingerprints, in sentence structure or word choice. Theories online have distorted this, suggesting OpenAI might be hiding telltale signs like a suspicious number of M-dashes. In reality, no such stylistic mark has ever been confirmed as a deliberate watermark, and OpenAI has not indicated it uses M- frequency as a tagging mechanism. Still, the rumour persists, a potent mix of half-truth and digital folklore. So can the M- actually be used to detect AI? Well, the short answer is no. The longer answer, only in the way that a trench coat might help you spot a spy. It could be a clue, but you better have other evidence. Experts agree that no single punctuation mark is a reliable AI detector. False positives are rife. OpenAI even disabled its own classifier for that reason. Grammar girl Mignon Fogarty has said it plainly. Human writers use M-dashes. A lot. Yes, AI can overuse them in some contexts, but so can humans, especially the humans who like to sound like Joan Didion, or just those who've discovered how useful the dash is and have gone a little overboard. The only reliable way to detect AI is a holistic one, looking at sentence structure, content, logic, and yes, sometimes style, but not a single dash. The M- has lived many lives: typographical flourish, poetic pulse, casualty of the typewriter era, comeback kid of modern prose, and now unwitting symbol of the AI age. Its current role in the culture war over writing authenticity is, frankly, overblown. While it's true that AI might use the M- more often than your average teenager texting from bed, it's also true that millions of real, breathing writers, journalists, poets, marketers, and novelists use it too. So before you accuse someone's blog or social post of being machine written because it contains one too many M-dashes, take a breath. Maybe a dash-shaped one.